Picture this. You're packing for your dream trip abroad when breaking news flashes across your screen. British travellers banned effective immediately. Flights cancelled, visas void, borders shut. It sounds dramatic, yet in a world where politics shift overnight, that scenario isn't far-fetched. From diplomatic disputes to global power plays, international travel has never been more uncertain. Some nations are already showing signs of tension, and your next destination could be one of them. Stay tuned as we count down 10 countries that could ban Brits without warning, revealing how fragile travel freedom can truly be. Number 10. China. China completes the list at number 10, a nation whose relationship with the UK has grown increasingly complicated over recent years. Once a major trade partner and diplomatic collaborator, China now views certain British policies as unfriendly. Disputes over Hong Kong, human rights, concerns in Xinjiang, and Britain's restrictions on Chinese technology companies have strained bilateral trust. These tensions create a fragile environment where political decisions could swiftly spill into travel regulations. If relations deteriorate further, China could impose sudden entry bans or stricter visa processes for British nationals, using travel control as a form of diplomatic signalling. For now, China continues to welcome tourists and business visitors, yet the atmosphere is cautious. The government has demonstrated its willingness to restrict entry for citizens of nations it perceives as hostile, often with minimal notice. British criticism of Beijing's domestic or foreign policy could provoke a swift and targeted response. As the global power balance shifts, China's leadership is increasingly assertive in defending its image and sovereignty. A travel ban on Brits might seem unlikely today, but it would align with the country's pattern of reciprocal diplomacy, where foreign actions are mirrored domestically. Despite these risks, China remains a destination of profound cultural depth and historical grandeur, from the Great Wall to the ancient streets of Xi'an. Yet for British travellers, the political climate demands heightened awareness. A single policy statement from London could reshape visa access overnight. Those planning to visit must stay informed, avoid political discussions, and recognise that modern geopolitics can redefine travel freedom at any moment. The UK-China connection stands as a reminder that diplomacy often dictates the direction of global mobility. Number 9. Russia. Russia claims the 9th spot as a country that could suddenly ban British travellers, reflecting its strained and volatile relationship with the United Kingdom. Since the invasion of Ukraine, diplomatic ties between the two nations have deteriorated sharply. The UK has imposed extensive sanctions on Russian officials, oligarchs, and companies, prompting Moscow to retaliate in various ways. Russia has already banned numerous Western politicians and journalists, signalling that ordinary citizens could be next. A complete travel suspension for Brits would fit within Russia's pattern of using visa restrictions as a geopolitical tool during times of conflict or diplomatic tension. The British government has repeatedly warned citizens against travelling to Russia, citing risks of arbitrary detention and limited consular assistance. For those already living or working there, the environment has grown increasingly hostile. Moscow's leadership often views Western nationals through the lens of political rivalry, especially as the UK continues to supply military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. A further escalation in sanctions or criticism from London could trigger immediate retaliation. Given the current climate, an unexpected travel ban would not be surprising, but rather consistent with Russia's defensive foreign policy approach. Despite the challenges, Russia remains a land of immense cultural and historical significance, home to architecture, art, and landscapes that have fascinated travellers for centuries. However, politics now overshadows its appeal. Any new diplomatic dispute could render existing visas invalid overnight, leaving travellers stranded or denied entry. For British citizens, the safest strategy is to avoid non-essential travel and remain alert to shifting international policies. When global tensions rise, access to destinations like Russia can disappear long before official announcements are made. Number 8. Iran. Iran takes the 8th spot as a nation that could suddenly prohibit entry for British travellers, given its tense and fluctuating relationship with the United Kingdom. The two countries have a long history of political mistrust, shaped by disputes over nuclear negotiations, human rights, and regional alliances. Britain's participation in sanctions and its alignment with US foreign policy have often drawn sharp criticism from Tehran. These ongoing tensions make Iran highly unpredictable when it comes to foreign travel policies. A diplomatic disagreement or security incident could quickly lead to the suspension of visas for British citizens or the tightening of border controls. Reports of detained dual nationals and accusations of espionage have already raised safety concerns for travellers. The Iranian government views certain foreign citizens with suspicion, especially those from nations involved in sanctions or critical rhetoric. For Brits, this means that even tourist visits carry elevated risks, particularly if political tensions spike. Any new development in the nuclear talks or Western criticism of domestic protests could provoke a direct response, including entry bans or travel warnings. The situation underscores how deeply foreign policy decisions can influence ordinary people's ability to move freely across borders. Yet Iran remains a country of extraordinary heritage, with ancient cities like Isfahan and Persepolis showcasing its cultural depth. For travellers, the temptation to explore such history is strong, but awareness and caution are essential. A sudden shift in diplomatic tone could change entry rules overnight, leaving visitors stranded or unwelcome. British citizens should stay informed through official advisories and avoid activities that might draw attention. Until relations stabilise, travelling to Iran will continue to demand vigilance and respect for its complex political landscape. Number 7. North Korea. North Korea ranks 7th on the list, a country already known for its extreme isolation and unpredictable stance toward Western nations. The UK maintains limited diplomatic contact with Pyongyang, yet the relationship remains fragile. Any perceived criticism from British officials or media outlets could trigger a sudden response from the North Korean government. Travel permissions are already tightly controlled, but the regime could easily decide to ban all British visitors without warning. Given the nation's history of using foreign policy as a political statement, such a move would serve as both a symbolic and strategic gesture. British citizens who have visited North Korea often describe a highly regulated experience where movement, conversation, and even photography are closely monitored. The government's sensitivity to international opinion makes it extremely reactive. A single diplomatic incident, sanctions update, or unfavourable comment about its leadership could lead to immediate travel restrictions. Since the pandemic, North Korea has maintained strict border closures, proving that it can isolate itself completely when it chooses. For British nationals, this reality means that entry access could vanish overnight, leaving no room for negotiation or appeal. Despite the risks, curiosity about North Korea's closed society continues to attract attention from researchers and documentary filmmakers. Yet for ordinary travellers, such visits carry immense uncertainty. With the country's leadership prioritising control over engagement, even minor political friction could reshape its entire visa policy. The safest course for British citizens is to monitor international relations carefully and treat any opportunity to visit as temporary. In a nation where politics dictate every border crossing, a sudden ban would be less an exception and more a reflection of its enduring isolationist stance. Number 6. Myanmar. Myanmar takes the 6th position as a country that could suddenly block entry for British citizens, reflecting its ongoing political instability and deteriorating relations with Western nations. Since the 2021 military coup, Myanmar's ruling junta has faced global condemnation, with the UK leading calls for democracy restoration and imposing sanctions on military leaders. These actions have not gone unnoticed by the regime, which perceives Western criticism as interference. If tensions deepen, Myanmar could retaliate by suspending visas or denying entry to British travellers, particularly those involved in journalism, activism, or humanitarian work. The volatile environment makes every diplomatic gesture significant. The situation in Myanmar remains unpredictable, with civil unrest and widespread restrictions already affecting travel. The government has periodically tightened access to certain regions and limited the movement of foreign nationals. For British citizens, the risk lies not only in political hostility, but also in the country's fragile security landscape. Airports, checkpoints, and communication systems are all under heavy state control, giving the regime absolute authority to halt foreign arrivals with little notice. The ongoing tension between Myanmar and the international community increases the likelihood of abrupt policy reversals that could directly impact British visitors. Despite the risks, Myanmar continues to hold remarkable natural and cultural beauty, from the temples of Bagan to the serene waters of Inle Lake. Yet under current circumstances, the appeal of travel is overshadowed by uncertainty. A single policy decision could instantly change who is allowed to enter. For British travellers, staying informed through official advisories and avoiding politically sensitive activities is essential. Until Myanmar regains stability, any trip there carries unpredictable consequences shaped by shifting power dynamics and fragile diplomacy. Number 5. Turkey. Turkey lands at number 5 as a country that could suddenly restrict access to British travellers if diplomatic tensions rise. The UK and Turkey share complex yet mutually beneficial relations, balancing cooperation in trade, defence, and tourism with occasional political disagreements. Recent years have seen Ankara pursue a more independent foreign policy, sometimes at odds with Western allies. The British government's criticism of Turkey's handling of press freedom, migration policies, and regional conflicts could prompt a sharp reaction from Turkish leaders. Should relations sour unexpectedly, Turkey could respond with swift changes to visa policies or temporary entry suspensions for UK citizens. President Erdogan's administration has demonstrated a willingness to act decisively when foreign governments question its domestic agenda. Turkey has previously imposed symbolic restrictions on journalists and diplomats to express discontent without severing full ties. Given its strategic position between Europe and the Middle East, Ankara uses its travel policies as a diplomatic tool, adjusting them according to political needs. For British nationals, this means that a policy shift could arrive without warning, potentially disrupting holidays, business trips, or long-term stays. The possibility of a travel freeze becomes more real during periods of regional instability or political confrontation. Despite this uncertainty, Turkey remains one of the most popular destinations for British tourists, offering historical cities, warm beaches, and vibrant markets. However, those planning visits should remember that alliances are dynamic and driven by real-time geopolitics. A single diplomatic disagreement or foreign policy decision could reshape travel access overnight. Staying aware of official updates and respecting local laws is essential for anyone travelling to a nation that blends East and West, yet guards its sovereignty fiercely. The balance between friendship and friction defines the UK-Turkey connection today. Number 4. India. India takes the 4th position as a country that could suddenly impose travel restrictions on Brits, despite the deep cultural and historical links shared between the two nations. The UK and India maintain strong trade and migration ties, yet their relationship occasionally encounters friction. Disputes over visa regulations, taxation of multinational companies, and sensitive political remarks about colonial history sometimes strain diplomatic goodwill. India's leadership has shown it will respond assertively when it perceives disrespect or interference from Western governments. This pattern means that if political rhetoric intensifies, New Delhi could tighten entry rules or suspend certain visa categories for British citizens. Recent tensions around the Khalistan movement and comments from UK-based politicians about Indian domestic affairs have added to the strain. India's government has previously issued strong diplomatic protests and tightened consular access when faced with criticism from Western countries. For British travellers, This environment creates uncertainty. While tourism and business travel remain largely open, even a minor diplomatic flare-up could trigger new bureaucratic hurdles or sudden policy changes. Given India's growing geopolitical confidence, it no longer hesitates to assert control over who enters its borders, especially when national pride is at stake. Despite these complexities, India continues to be a country of extraordinary diversity, offering ancient temples, bustling cities, and rich culinary traditions. Yet travellers must recognise that politics often moves faster than planes. A shift in diplomatic tone or an unresolved trade disagreement could impact entry permissions overnight. The best approach for Brits is to remain respectful of local sensitivities, follow travel advisories closely, and avoid assuming that historical connections guarantee open doors forever. Diplomatic balance, not nostalgia, now defines the evolving UK-India travel relationship. Number 3. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia secures the third spot as a nation that could suddenly restrict or ban British travellers, especially if diplomatic tensions escalate. The relationship between the UK and Saudi Arabia is deeply intertwined with arms trade agreements, human rights discussions, and energy cooperation. While the two nations maintain strong economic ties, their partnership has moments of friction. British criticism of Saudi Arabia's internal policies, particularly concerning freedom of expression and gender rights, has not always been received positively in Riyadh. A sudden shift in political tone or a new wave of sanctions could easily provoke Saudi authorities to reconsider visa policies for British citizens. Recent years have seen the kingdom assert greater independence in its foreign policy. Saudi Arabia has been diversifying alliances, building closer ties with China and Russia, while recalibrating its relationship with Western countries. This move towards geopolitical balance means the UK no longer holds the same level of diplomatic influence it once did. If British politicians push harder on human rights or defence issues, Saudi leaders might respond symbolically by tightening access or suspending certain travel permissions. Such a step would send a strong message without affecting major oil partnerships, making it an attractive form of quiet retaliation. Beyond politics, Saudi Arabia remains a destination of immense cultural and religious significance, attracting pilgrims and business travellers alike. However, with changing global power dynamics, even nations long considered allies can shift positions quickly. A sudden travel restriction could disrupt not only tourism, but also trade and international cooperation. For British citizens, staying updated on evolving diplomatic relations is essential. What seems like a stable travel route today could become off-limits tomorrow under new political realities shaping the modern Middle East. Number 2. Venezuela. Venezuela ranks second on the list of countries that could suddenly ban Brits, driven by years of diplomatic tension and financial disputes. Relations between London and Caracas have been rocky ever since the UK recognised opposition leader Juan Guaidó over Nicolás Maduro as Venezuela's legitimate president. The British government's decision to freeze Venezuelan gold reserves, worth billions, deepened mistrust between the two nations. As a result, Caracas views the UK as part of a Western bloc working against its sovereignty. This fragile relationship makes the possibility of an unexpected travel ban more than theoretical. It's a realistic outcome of ongoing political friction. British citizens travelling to Venezuela already face a complex environment marked by economic instability, frequent protests, and inconsistent border regulations. The Venezuelan government has previously denied entry to diplomats and journalists from countries it accuses of interference. Should tensions rise further, similar restrictions could easily extend to ordinary British travellers, cutting off access without any advance notice. The uncertainty surrounding visa rules and political messaging adds another layer of risk for anyone holding a British passport. Even humanitarian workers have faced scrutiny, proving that diplomatic shifts can affect people far beyond government circles. Despite its natural beauty, from Angel Falls to the Caribbean coastline, Venezuela's internal struggles and external disputes make travel unpredictable. For Brits, a sudden policy change could mean cancelled flights or revoked visas overnight. The volatile relationship between the UK and Venezuela serves as a stark reminder that global travel depends heavily on political goodwill. When that goodwill evaporates, even seasoned travellers can find themselves unwelcome. Remaining alert to diplomatic changes is the best defence against being caught off guard in a nation where politics often shape who gets to cross the border. Number 1. Belarus. Belarus takes the top spot as the country most likely to ban Brits without warning. The nation's close alliance with Russia makes it a potential flashpoint for diplomatic retaliation. As the UK continues to impose sanctions against both Russia and Belarus for their roles in the Ukraine conflict, Minsk could respond by restricting or completely halting entry for British citizens. The government of Belarus has already demonstrated its readiness to align with Moscow's political agenda, even if that means isolating itself from the West. For British travellers, this means that a simple change in international relations could instantly transform a once accessible destination into a no-entry zone. Tensions between London and Minsk have been simmering for years. British officials have criticised Belarus for alleged human rights abuses and the suppression of free speech, while Belarusian authorities accuse the UK of meddling in its domestic affairs. These diplomatic rifts make the travel environment unstable, with warnings already issued by the UK Foreign Office about potential detentions and restricted movement within the country. The Belarusian government's unpredictable stance toward Western nations heightens the risk that any new sanction, speech, or alliance could prompt a swift ban on British nationals. Despite these concerns, Belarus remains a place of cultural intrigue, with Soviet-era architecture, dense forests, and a population proud of its identity. Yet for British visitors, the growing political volatility overshadows the country's appeal. A sudden escalation in geopolitical tension could see travel permissions withdrawn overnight, leaving citizens stranded or barred entirely. This uncertainty highlights how fragile international travel freedoms can be when politics takes centre stage. For now, the smartest move for British travellers is to stay updated, remain cautious, and recognise that global diplomacy often changes far faster than flight schedules. Global travel has always carried a sense of freedom, yet that freedom is deeply tied to diplomacy. The relationship between nations can shift faster than flight schedules, and today's friendly destination could become tomorrow's no-go zone. For British citizens, this reality highlights the importance of staying informed, respecting cultural and political sensitivities, and understanding that international policies evolve with every new headline. Each country on this list, from Belarus to China, reflects how global tensions, sanctions, and political disagreements can ripple into everyday life, reshaping how and where people can travel. The lesson is clear: never take open borders for granted. Whether it's sudden visa restrictions, diplomatic retaliation, or broader security concerns, travel access depends as much on politics as on passports. For Brits exploring the world, awareness isn't just smart, it's essential. Always check official travel advisories, follow reliable news sources, and be ready to adjust plans when global dynamics shift. The more unpredictable international relations become, the more valuable preparation and flexibility are for safe travel. If you found this video eye-opening, hit that like button to help it reach more viewers. Subscribe for more insightful breakdowns on global affairs, travel security, and the hidden forces shaping international mobility. And we'd love to hear from you. Which country on this list surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. For more content like this, watch our next video on top 10 passports losing power in 2025. Stay informed, stay safe, and keep exploring wisely.